England. This forced many religious families to flee to America to find religious freedom. The minister died 3 days later. Patrick Henry knew that drastic measures had to be done. The situation looked hopeless. The colonies did not have any formal army. The majority of the delegates were not in favor of forming a militia to defend the people of Virginia against the British oppression. Colonel George Washington, later known as the Sword of the Revolution, was in attendance and was in favor of the resolution, and also Thomas Jefferson, later known as the Pen of the Revolution, was in attendance, and it was in favor of the resolution. Most of the delegates were not in favor and argued the British were too strong. The resolution was treasonous, and we should wait. It was now Patrick Henry's turn to speak. Mr. Patrick Henry, you have the floor.
No man thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism as well as the abilities of the very worthy gentlemen who have just addressed the House. But different men often see the same subject in different lights. And therefore I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if entertaining, as I do, opinions of a character very opposite of theirs, I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. And for my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. And in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and to fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinions at such a time for fear of giving offense, I shall consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and of an act of disloyalty towards the majesty of heaven, whom I revere above all earthly kings. Mr. President, it is natural for man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not those things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth and to know the worst and to provide for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging the future but by the past, and judging in the conduct of the British ministry in the past 10 years to justify all this accumulation of navies and armies. No, sir, there is none. They are meant for others and not meant for ourselves. They are meant to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry has been so long forging. And what have we to oppose them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we've been trying that for the past 10 years. Have we anything new to offer upon the subject? Nothing. We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable, and it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to entreaty and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not been already exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves. We have done everything that could be done to avert the storm that is now coming on. We have petitioned. We have remonstrated. We have supplicated. We have prostrated ourselves before the throne and implored its interposition to arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry and parliament. Our petitions have been slighted. Our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult.
Our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the very foot of the throne. It is in vain after these things shall we indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, in which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contest shall be attained, we must fight. And I repeat it, sir, we must fight. And appeal to arms and the God of hosts is all that has left us. They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next week? Or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed and a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the effectual means of resistance by lying supinely on our backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope till our enemy shall have bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak. We make a proper use of those means which the God of nature has placed in our power. 3 millions of people armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country as that which we possess, are invincible by any force our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not for the strong alone. It's for the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. And I repeat it, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, when there is no peace. The war has actually begun. The next gate that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear and peace so sweet to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. And that, my friend, is the truth. Now, if you were one of the delegates, it was treasonous to vote for a militia. Would you have voted to have a militia? George Washington agreed to chair, I think it was Patrick Henry, chaired the commission to have a Virginia militia. George Washington said fine, he's going to be part of it. Thomas Jefferson was in the room, and it was within about 2 weeks that Lexington, Concord, the shots were fired, and then that just started the Revolutionary War. And that phrase, give me liberty or give me death, became the rallying cry of the Revolution. So there was like 5 dissenting delegates, but the majority upheld the resolution to have a Virginia militia. And Patrick Henry was, I admire that man, because not only of his religious conviction, he really believed in God. He said, there is a just God who presides over this nation, who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. He had a tremendous belief in God and God's power to intervene in the affairs of men. also, I'm going to get my notes here just a second. And just chat for a little bit, a few minutes, on my impression. I first heard that speech up in Washington, D.C. by a reenactor, and I was stunned by the power of the words. Now, what I ask people is, do you have the spirit of Patrick Henry in you? That's the spirit that made our country free. That's the spirit. And so I try to go over just a few things of what he said in the speech. I'll just hit a couple. I'm not going to take, very much time. But one thing, he put the King of England on notice right away that that God was, well, one thing about, remember what he said, should I keep back my opinions at such a time for fear of giving offense? I shall consider myself as guilty of treason. He felt that strongly about it. That if I didn't say what needs to be said, he felt guilty that he would be guilty of treason, not only to his country, but also to God. And remember what he said, the holy cause of liberty. This, in his estimation, this was the holy cause of liberty and freedom. And he knew that God was behind it. Another thing that he said, now remember what he said? He said, the battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It's to the vigilant, the active, the brave. And so each one of us has to decide, are we going to be vigilant in the cause of freedom? Are we going to be brave in the face of tyranny? Because any system of government, when you go up against it, they consider treasonous. They're in to protect themselves. So yes, we've got a huge battle. This is a huge battle that are facing us. Are you going to be active in the pursuit of liberty? And I'm so appreciative of the group here, of the Constitutional Club. And I'm proud to be here and talk to you all about something that's passionate to me, is that speech and the thought process behind it is what made our country free. And I know we've got to get back to these basics of just honesty, integrity, and now, another thing that I felt that Patrick Henry was motivated by in his deep love for God and love for people. Remember the situation when Jesus was at the Last Supper, and he said, one of you is going to betray me. And it was Judas, and Judas left. So Jesus knew the next day he was going to be on the cross. He turned to his disciples, this is in John 13. He turned to his disciples and he says, a new commandment I give to you. Now, does anybody remember what that commandment was? A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. He says, greater love is no man than this, than a man give his life for his friends. And the world will know you by the love that you show one for another. Now, think about this just for a second. Before that, he was asked by a lawyer, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus responded and said, the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And he said, and love your neighbor, and the second was to love your neighbor as yourself. Now notice, before that, he said, love your neighbor as yourself. The measuring of love is how you want to be treated. You love your neighbor as yourself. How you want to be treated, you love. But on the eve of his crucifixion, he says, you love like I love you. Now, it's kind of intriguing me why he waited to that point to say that. But the only thing that makes sense to me, anyway, is that the next day he was on the cross and proved it. They had an example, an actual example of sacrificial life. And that was the example to us, too, as we go about our life. So because we love people, we want righteousness and honor, is why I think we're all engaged in this fight, because we want truth, we want honesty. And in the scriptures, there's a passage, and it's a principle, now it's in Proverbs. It says, the rich will rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Now, in Deuteronomy 28. Moses is appealing to the Israelite people to follow God's commandments and statutes and orders. In Deuteronomy 28, he sums up all the blessings if they follow God's way, all the curses if they don't. Now, I'm not saying that any of that is a direct prophecy of what's happening in the United States. What I am saying, though, is a principle. Just think of the principles. The last blessing, he said, he quotes, and you can read it for yourself. Just get out Deuteronomy 28 and just read it. He says, you will mount up higher and higher. You will lend to other nations, but you will not borrow. You will be the head and not the tail. Then he starts going on the curse side and starts listing all this bad stuff, enemies of Israel, all this stuff. The last curse he quotes, he says, a foreigner among you will get stronger and stronger. You get weaker and weaker. They will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. And they'll be the head and you'll be the tail. They'll be telling you what to do. Now, in essence, we've had this in the United States. I believe, this is my humble opinion, with the Federal Reserve banking system. We are on a totally fiat money currency system. There's nothing really backing it. So, and God, in working with the Israelite people and following his ways, usually was a sin. Usually it's bad. You take advantage of somebody and charge high interest or something like that. Bad. In fact, please read Nehemiah, because the people were coming to Nehemiah that were rebuilding Jerusalem. And we're saying, we're in deep trouble, Nehemiah. We've sold off our children just to buy food. And we're in debt. We've mortgaged our fields, we've mortgaged our houses, we've mortgaged our children. And Nehemiah got very mad. And the men who were buying the kids and buying the stuff were Jewish people, too. Princes, it's called them princes. And Nehemiah got extremely mad and got all the people together, all the elders of the people together in the square, and confronted these Jewish princes and higher officials, and basically said, what you're doing is wrong. You're taking advantage of these people, and you know what we're going to have to do? We are going to have to buy, you guys are going to sell their kids to foreigners for a slave, basically a work slave, and we're going to have to buy those kids from them at some point in time. And this is wrong. It's wrong. And he actually got them to forget the debt, basically. They forgot the debt. You can read it yourself. Just get it out and read it. And I think that, what was it, Iceland was the one country that arrested the bankers. And they forgave the people of most, if not all, of their debt. Now that's in the scriptures as far as the way God was working with the Israelite people. Every 50th year, the land reverted back to the original owner. Every 7 years, the debt was forgiven. It didn't matter whether you loaned money 6 years, 9 months to somebody. It says if they needed help, you're still to do it, even though you know that 7th year is wiped out. You know, that's the year of Jubilee, I think it's called. But God was kind of protecting the people in that, and protecting the nation. So yeah, our country has departed from sound money. I do have, if anybody wants to see it, a 1963 $5 United States note and also a $2 United States note. Is anybody familiar with those 1963? Is anybody familiar with this? Okay, now I'm not getting any hands. Okay, you gotta see it.
You mean the silver certificate?
Silver certificate? Silver certificate?
No. All it says at the top is United States note. Now the money you have in your pocket, it says what? Federal Reserve note. Why in 1963 did Kennedy, he signed an actual executive order, 11110, about the currency. And this money, there was like 4 billion printed or something like that of this. It said United States note on it. After he was shot, taken up, never heard of again. Now, you can buy them on eBay. There's still some left. The scam, in a nutshell, is the Federal Reserve Bank, as I understand, here's what the deal is. The Federal Reserve Bank is a private for-profit corporation owned mostly by foreigners. Rothschilds out of England, Schiffs out of Italy, Goldman Sachs, Kuhnlo, Rothschild dynasty. Trying to think, Lazarus Brothers out of France. It's basically a banking cartel. these big families, wealthy families, got together and formed a cartel that to be the central bank of the United States. That was their goal. And they achieved it in 1913. Well, basically, these bankers, our government goes to them and says, we need $1 billion. They say, great, print it up, no problem. We'll pay you 3 cents to print the dollar bill, $10, $5, etc. But it's a note, it's debt. So we owe them $1. They paid us 3 cents for it. But we owe them $1. And we pay interest on $1. Now, does this make sense already? No, it doesn't make sense. Now, what were they getting out of the deal? What do you think they were getting out of the deal? They're not stupid. Our gold. So our gold was going out. Evidently, Kennedy saw this. I've got a biography of him, and in the back it said one of his goals was to stop the outflow of gold. So, and he would have done it. He would have done it. The United States notes was our money. It was no debt to any private corporation. This was our money. No debt. No debt whatsoever. And he literally would have wiped them out. Wiped them out. We would be so wealthy now, we can't even imagine how wealthy we would be. Had he stayed the course with true money, in the Bible, money is always gold and silver, always. That's the money, something of value, something of wealth. But now we're on strictly a debt-based currency. It's totally fiat. So that's one thing that I'm passionate about, trying to help us get back to a sounder money system. What I understand, guys, I don't know how you guys think, but it appears like the country's on a course that's going to have a reset, and it's going to be ugly. That's coming. It's almost like it's inevitable at this point, and that anybody that has dollar-denominated assets are going to lose in that. A lot of people are trading, getting in gold and silver, real estate. There's literally millions of dollars being poured into the Tampa Bay area to buy these foreclosure homes. I don't know who these people are. I don't know if it's China coming in, big hedge funds, I'm not sure. Literally millions and millions of dollars for these foreclosure homes. Buying them, fixing them up and renting. Buying, fixing them and renting. The American people are being converted from owners to tenants. Just slowly, insidiously, So yes, we've got to fight, and I identify with you guys. So we've got a big road to hoe, and I pray God give me wisdom. There's a passage in the Proverbs. It says, "By wisdom is the house built, and by understanding the walls thereof, and by knowledge are the rooms filled with all pleasant riches." So wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and the spirit of Patrick Henry. And getting back to a moral compass with this country so God can bless us again. And just like what Adele was saying, what was 2 Chronicles 7, and let's see now, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, seek my face, humble themselves, and pray.
Seek my face and pray.
Pray. Turn from their wicked ways.
I will hear from heaven.
I will hear from heaven.
Heal their land.
Forgive their sins and heal their land. That's correct. It's interesting what I will heal their land. Notice that phrase, heal their land. Listen to what, let's see, heal their land. Oh yes, in Deuteronomy, Moses was talking to the fathers their role to teach the children. And the judges, here's what he actually said to the judges. I think this is in 17 or something. He said, you must not subvert justice. You must not respect persons. You must not accept a bribe. For a bribe blinds the eyes of those who are wise and subverts the cause of those who are in the right. He says, justice and only justice will you pursue, that you may live and occupy the land the Lord your God gave you. So our country's made a real bad turn, and I'm in the fight with you guys. I pray you just keep going, and I'm there too. Because just as Patrick Henry said, give me liberty, give me death. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't care. I don't know what you want to do from this point. I mean, okay. Maybe.